I want you to imagine, just for a second, the creeping dread of walking through a massive, completely abandoned building at night.
Oh, yeah, it's a very specific primal kind of fear.
Right.
Psychologists actually call these liminal spaces, areas that are designed for heavy human transition, but then they are suddenly stripped of their intended purpose.
Like an empty train station.
Exactly. Your brain is primed to see crowds, motion, life. So when it encounters total echoing emptiness instead, it basically interprets that absence as a physical threat.
Well, that perfectly sets the stage for what we are digging into today. I really want you to paint the picture of Sapphire Mall in your mind.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
it's this hollow, echoing concrete shell that's been left utterly empty for
Mm.
like 6 years after a massive financial collapse.
Just a giant paperweight of a building.
Literally. It's plagued by endless legal disputes, sprawling dark corridors, and these eerie, flickering emergency lights just casting long shadows over shuttered storefronts.
It's a monument to dead commerce. I mean, during the day, you might have a maintenance worker or two wandering the lower levels, just to keep the pipes from fimsing. But at night, it is total suffocating isolation.
So for today's deep dive, we're unpacking a highly classified incident report alongside the recovered audio logs and security footage transcripts of a man named Mahesh Yadav.
Right. And Mahesh took what he honestly thought was going to be the easiest job in the world.
Oh, 100%. He was the night security guard for this dead mall. His duties were almost comically simple. He basically had to sit in a locked surveillance room, drink his tea, and just watch over 80 security cameras spread across 4 floors until the sun came up.
80 cameras showing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Just, empty food courts, escalators that haven't moved in half a decade, shuttered clothing stores just gathering dust under the lenses.
But the mission of this deep dive is to unpack the utterly terrifying sequence of events surrounding one specific monitor in that room, Camera 27.
The infamous Camera 27.
We're going to explore how a simple piece of, closed-circuit security equipment became a literal window into inevitable future violence.
And we'll be looking at the psychological toll of foresight, the mechanics of a time loop, and, well, analyzing the horrifying realization of what actually happens when the future you're observing decides to look back at you.
So, to understand the escalation, we have to look at the physical location of Camera 27 first.
Right, because placement is everything here.
It was positioned facing an old jewelry showroom in the mall's east wing. And the incident reports highlight that this entire section had been permanently closed off years ago due to a massive ceiling collapse.
It was structurally unsafe. Literally nobody went there.
But during his 3rd week on the job, Mahesh's audio logs note a mechanical anomaly. At first, he assumes it's just, garbage software.
Which makes sense. It's an abandoned mall.
Right. But every single night, at exactly 12:00 a.m., Camera 27 automatically resets. Screen goes black, and when it comes back online, the footage has completely changed.
And it hasn't just glitched. It's broadcasting an entirely different reality.
Yeah, and the technical logs confirm the system wasn't pulling from an archive.
No,
Right?
not at all. The first time it happens, the camera shows 2 teenage boys breaking into a sports store inside the mall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Mahesh watches them steal shoes, smash glass shelves, spray paint the walls, and run off. So, doing his job, he follows protocol and calls the police.
But the police show up the next morning, sweep the mall, and they find absolutely nothing.
Nothing. No broken glass, no spray paint. The hallway is pristine.
And by that point, the footage on Camera 27 has just reverted back to the live feed of the empty corridor.
Exactly. But this is where the timeline completely fractures. Because 24 hours later, that exact robbery happens in reality.
Wait, like identical?
Identical. The same boys, wearing the exact same clothes, smashing the identical shelves in the precise sequence Mahesh watched the night before.
Okay, let's unpack this, because it's like having a DVR for tomorrow's local news, but you're the only one with the remote, and nobody believes the broadcast.
That's a great way to put it. It moves from a theoretical system glitch into a predictive, one-to-one replication of reality. And the escalation of this proof is really what starts to erode Mahesh's sanity.
Because it doesn't stop at vandalism. According to his logs, the next night, midnight hits, Camera 27 flickers. And the new recording shows a man aggressively arguing with his wife near the mall parking lot.
And it escalates fast.
It does. The argument turns physical. The man shoves her down a concrete staircase. Mahesh literally watches her neck snap. He watches the husband drag her lifeless body into his car and speed away. And then, The footage just abruptly ends.
And the grim confirmation arrives the next day.
Yeah. A local news report details a woman's body found by a highway outside the city. The police suspect domestic violence. Mahesh is sitting in his surveillance room, looking at the screen, recognizing her clothes.
Recognizing the specific traumatic injuries he watched happen hours before they actually occurred in the real world.
I'm looking at his audio logs here, and I'm honestly just baffled. I mean, he watches a literal murder predictively play out, and he goes back to work the next day.
Yeah.
If I am sitting in a dark, empty mall and my monitor shows me a brutal killing that then comes true, I am throwing my badge in the trash, driving to another state, and never looking back. Like, what kept him there?
Well, it's a completely rational reaction from the outside looking in, for sure.
Yeah.
But the psychological profiling in the incident report points to something called the Cassandra complex.
The Cassandra complex.
Yeah. In Greek mythology, Cassandra was cursed to know the future, but doomed to never be believed. When you are burdened with absolute truth, that sounds like, well, utter insanity to the rest of the world. It deeply isolates you.
So he felt like he was the only one who could handle it.
Part of it, Mahesh basically became paralyzed by the need to understand the mechanism. Human curiosity, especially morbid curiosity, often sinks its hooks in much deeper than self-preservation.
That's chilling.
He became obsessed, staying up, getting these dark circles under his eyes, just waiting for midnight.
And the midnight broadcasts just get worse, right? A stabbing, a kidnapping, a deadly restaurant fire. Every single event plays out the next day exactly as the monitor dictated.
Which raises an important question. Why these specific events?
Right.
If we look closely at the data Mahesh gathered, there is an underlying geographic rule governing these broadcasts. Every single crime, every tragedy is intrinsically connected to Sapphire Mall.
So it's not just a random crystal ball scanning the globe.
No, it's highly localized. Either the victims visited the mall shortly before their deaths, or the perpetrators were former employees.
Okay, that makes it so much weirder.
In paranormal research, there's a concept known as the stone tape theory.
I think I've heard of that.
It suggests that traumatic, highly emotional events release energy that can literally be recorded by the physical environment. You know, the rocks, the concrete, the steel.
Yeah.
And then it gets replayed under the right conditions.
Like a natural tape recorder.
Exactly. But Sapphire Mall isn't replaying the past. It's as if the sheer volume of financial ruin and misery absorbed by the building's foundation turned it into a magnetic sinkhole. It's pulling future trauma toward it across time.
Mahesh actually tries to warn the police anonymously, but they just laugh him off, telling him to lay off the horror movies during his shift. So he is entirely isolated with this impossible knowledge.
Which brings us to week 4.
Right. Week 4. The nature of the footage entirely shifts. It stops being a passive documentary of tomorrow's tragedies.
The visual texture changes. The incident report notes Mahesh describing the footage as distorted, almost dreamlike. The edges of the frame blur.
And then the fundamental boundary between the observer and the observed completely dissolves.
This is the turning point.
The people inside the recordings actually start interacting with the camera. At first, it's just a fleeting glance. But then a murderer actually smiles directly into camera 27 right before attacking his victim.
Ugh.
I know. Another woman whispers silently up at the lens before vanishing.
See, the entire psychological architecture of surveillance relies on the concept of the one-way mirror. You see them, they don't see you.
Right, the glass.
That separation provides safety. When that dynamic flips, the psychological safety of the observer is utterly destroyed. You are no longer a watcher. You are a participant.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the analogy I keep coming back to is staring into a shark tank.
Okay, I like this.
You're at the aquarium, you feel perfectly safe behind that thick acrylic glass, observing this lethal predator from a very comfortable distance. But then suddenly, the shark swims right up and taps on the glass from the outside.
You realize the barrier was an illusion all along.
Exactly.
What's fascinating here is the underlying mechanics of what Mahesh is witnessing. If we borrow from quantum physics, there's the observer effect. It dictates that the mere act of watching a phenomenon inherently changes its behavior.
So by watching, he's changing the future.
Yes. Mahesh slowly realizes that camera 27 isn't just a passive algorithm calculating probabilities. It is actively witnessing them from a vantage point outside of linear time. The people in the footage aren't looking at a piece of hardware on a wall, they are looking at Mahesh watching them.
Time itself operates differently within the lens. It has become a temporal bridge.
And that bridge delivers a very direct, very terrifying warning.
Mahesh's log from Tuesday of that final week describes the midnight reset. But this time, no crime occurs on screen. The footage just shows a 9-year-old girl standing alone in the abandoned food court.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, she's wearing a yellow raincoat covered in mud stains, and she just stands there, staring silently into the camera for nearly 2 minutes.
2 minutes of unbroken eye contact from a child who shouldn't be there. The tension in that silence, even just reading the transcripts, is deafening.
Then she slowly raises one hand to the screen, and she whispers, "You're next." The monitor cuts to black.
And the real world follows suit.
Yes. The next morning, the body of a missing girl is found near a drainage canal outside the city. Mud stains, yellow raincoat, same girl.
This is the turning point where the phenomena isolates its target. The camera has stopped showing Mahesh what happens to other people. It has now placed him in the queue.
You've probably experienced déjà vu, right? That weird, fleeting sense that you've lived a moment before. Imagine that feeling stretched out over an 8-hour night shift, but instead of a vague, fuzzy feeling, your inevitable doom is playing out in high definition on the monitor in front of you.
That brings us to the final agonizing week, the Thursday tape.
The Thursday tape. The footage had been getting progressively more violent, more intimate. A maintenance worker beaten in the basement. Masked man dragging a body through the garage.
And in all these clips, the subjects are nervously glancing at the camera, like they know it's the source of their doom.
Then Thursday night hits. Midnight. The screen flickers. And Mahesh sees himself.
Oh, the ultimate dread.
Yeah. The timestamp on the screen clearly displays tomorrow's date, Friday. He is watching a feed of the very room he was sitting in. He is watching himself drink tea.
He's watching his future self.
The lights in the surveillance room go out. Future Mahesh grabs a flashlight, his hands shaking violently, and steps out into the pitch-black hallway. The camera angle instantly shifts, abandoning its fixed position on the wall to follow him from somewhere deeper inside the mall.
It transitions from a static security feed into a mobile stalking perspective.
Right. Mahesh is watching himself being hunted. On the screen, distant, heavy, dragging footsteps echo behind future Mahesh. He keeps turning around, seeing nothing.
The anticipation is brutal.
And then, at the far end of the hallway, a figure appears. The logs describe it as tall, pitch black, human-shaped, but its features are violently blurred.
Blurred, like out of focus.
It's almost like the camera lens is physically rejecting its existence.
It's a visual representation of something that simply shouldn't exist in our physical reality, an ontological virus.
The thing moves unnaturally fast. The screen glitches into heavy static. And through the static, Mahesh hears his own blood-curdling screams.
Oh, God.
The image clears for just 1 second, long enough to show Mahesh lying dead next to the escalators, his throat completely torn open, his eyes frozen in terror. Then the tape ends.
The psychological weight of that moment is unimaginable. To be handed a high-definition recording of your own brutal murder scheduled for exactly 24 hours from now.
So he finally does what any sane person would have done weeks ago. He quits. The next morning, Friday, he packs his bags. He is getting out of the city before sunset. He is not going to be anywhere near Sapphire Mall.
But of course, the universe intervenes.
A freak torrential rainstorm floods the roads surrounding the entire district. The infrastructure completely fails. He is physically trapped in his car, miles from safety.
He has absolutely no choice but to retreat back into the mall, back to the highest ground, just to wait out the flood.
He locks himself inside the surveillance room. He turns every single light on. And he just waits, consumed by sheer panic, for midnight. Now wait, hold on. We have to pause here and address the elephant in the room. Causality.
Yes, the big paradox.
This is the ultimate tragic loop. By trying to escape the prophecy of his death, he ends up trapping himself in the exact location where it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Did the tape simply show what will happen passively? Or did showing him the tape actually cause the events to happen?
It's a flawless execution of the Oedipus paradox. If the oracle never tells you your fate, you never take the actions to avoid it, which are, tragically, the very actions that fulfill it.
Wow.
The camera forced his hand. By making him aware of the Friday midnight event, it guaranteed he would be in a state of heightened terror, isolated, and reacting exactly to the stimuli it was about to provide. It is entirely a self-fulfilling prophecy orchestrated by whatever intelligence is behind the lens.
So the entity isn't a ghost in the traditional sense. It's more like a zip file.
A zip file.
Yeah, the building compressed all this ambient trauma, this financial ruin and impending violence into a single corrupted file. And Mahesh basically unzipped it by watching.
That is a remarkably accurate way to frame it. He downloaded the horror into his own timeline, and the orchestration of that timeline is flawless because then Friday night arrives.
12 a.m.,
Yeah.
camera 27 flickers. Mahesh refuses to look at the screen. But then he hears it in reality outside the locked door. Footsteps.
Slow, dragging. The exact cadence from the audio of the tape.
The physical and the broadcast realities are finally merging.
Terrifying.
The footsteps stop right outside his door, then 3 knocks. Mahesh is backing away, just shaking. The lights in his room flicker and die. The monitor beside him powers on by itself.
And it's not a recording anymore.
No, it's a live feed of the hallway right outside his door. The timeline is caught up to the broadcast.
He's in the moment.
Standing there on the live feed is the tall black figure. The face is still nothing but violently swirling static. Slowly, the creature on the monitor raises a hand and points directly at Mahesh through the camera. At that exact second, the real door handle to the surveillance room begins to turn.
The instinctual flight response kicks in exactly as the tape required it to.
Mahesh screams and runs. He bursts out of the room, sprinting down the empty, dark hallways. The emergency lights are flashing. He runs past the abandoned stores, and behind him, the dragging footsteps are getting closer.
And he realizes what he's doing.
Right. As he's running, the absolute horror dawns on him. He is taking the exact route from the tape.
He is hitting his marks. Down the corridor, through the food court, heading straight for the dark east wing, he is performing the script he memorized entirely against his will.
Suddenly, the mall's intercom crackles to life. A soft, distorted voice echoes through the entire massive complex. It says, "You already watched this happen."
That is the entity confirming the trap has snapped shut. It is asserting absolute dominance over the timeline.
All the emergency lights instantly cut out. Pitch blackness. Mahesh runs blindly until he hits a dead end. He stops. He's at the escalators.
The spot.
The exact spot from the tape. The footsteps behind him stop. Silence. He turns around.
This is where the incident report pieces together the final moments from the recovered camera logs.
The creature is standing just feet away. And now Mahesh can see its face clearly. It's not just static. Inside the swirling distortion where its face should be, camera 27 is flickering endlessly.
Showing the future.
Showing hundreds of murders, hundreds of violent futures, all playing out simultaneously within the creature's head. The thing tilts its head at Mahesh and whispers in dozens of overlapping voices, "Thank you for watching."
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reveals the true anatomy of this entity.
Right.
It isn't just a monster hiding in a dark basement. It is the living, breathing embodiment of the mall's recorded violence.
Like a manifestation.
Yes. An amalgamation of thousands of dark futures happening all at once. The building absorbed so much misery that it birthed a consciousness. A consciousness made entirely of surveillance data and inevitable tragedy.
But what does this all mean? For Mahesh, I mean. The next morning, the daytime security team finds his body by the escalators. Throat torn. Exactly as the tape dictated.
And the police?
The police write it off as a violent robbery. No suspects found. But the real tragedy, the cruelest irony of all this, is what happens to camera 27 afterward, according to the final system logs.
It stops predicting the future. The supernatural broadcasts completely cease.
Because Mahesh, a guy who spent his nights passively watching archived footage of an empty mall, has now become a permanent piece of archived footage himself.
A permanent loop.
Yeah. Now, every single night at midnight, camera 27 just plays a loop. The surveillance room doors slowly opening and Mahesh walking back inside. He is forever trapped in the architecture he was paid to watch over.
It is the ultimate collapse of the observer effect. The observer has been entirely consumed by the medium. He collapsed the probability wave right on top of himself.
It really makes you rethink the entire concept of passive observation. We just took this chilling journey through the blurring of the line between the watcher and the watched.
Absolutely.
The core terror of Mahesh's story isn't just a monster. It's the crushing, suffocating weight of knowing the future, but being utterly powerless to change a single frame of it.
It demands that we examine our own relationship with screens, you know? We consume an endless stream of information daily. True crime, global tragedies, constant news cycles.
Yeah, we do it from our couches.
Exactly. Confident that the glass of the screen acts as an impenetrable shield, protecting us from the reality playing out on the other side.
But this deep dive proves that observation is a two-way street. When you stare into a screen, you are engaging with the events it portrays. You are giving it your energy, your fear, your attention.
And if the stone tape theory holds any water, well, sometimes that accumulated energy reaches a critical mass.
I want to leave you with something to really mull over tonight. We designed security cameras to capture a single fleeting moment in time. to freeze it as evidence.
Right.
But if a physical place becomes saturated with enough trauma, enough darkness, could it eventually learn to capture time itself?
It's a terrifying thought.
So, the next time you find yourself walking alone down an empty, echoing hallway, and you notice the cold, blinking red light of a security camera staring down at you from the corner of the ceiling, ask yourself, are you just watching the camera? Or is the future already watching?